Hey. It is that early morning, 5:15 a.m. First one this early. Heading towards my second home, the Mountain Mount Royal. 5:15 a.m. in the morning. Grateful, thankful, rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Gotta watch a little bit of those roads because it's Montreal on that treacherous weather. A little bit on the treacherous side of things. Supposed to get a bit on the sunny side. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, train, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. And I head to my second home, the mountain, Mount Royal, on these feet. And the clock in a little bit of more than 4 hours. Sorry, I'm just gonna try to get to the garbage there. Thank you. Thank you, have a nice day. So we're gonna go all the way to the mountain and watch the cars there. Sometimes they cross and they come here to the cars, and my fellow citizens there. Spoke, I guess, a few times in the past with them. I think they're, they just came in Canada their first winter, and remember they weren't that used to it. If they're the same person, I didn't take a good look, but I always like to be as welcoming and try to be as welcoming as we can, with our new brothers and sisters who come here in the new world, as we are all, I guess, here in the new collective, North American Civilizational Collective, part of this new world. The North American Collective, Quebec, Canada, North America. Is yours truly a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, always for the collective. And the song is Pledge Your Allegiance, Legions, and now we're heading east. And although financially stressed, I gotta be expressing my gratitude, Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, got food, got coffee, and still got a little bit of sweets at home. If not, I can always improvise and do my own sweets. Put a little bit of sugar, put a little bit of those cereals and what have you. So, but I gotta salute the firefighters, LOV, love. Firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store closers, truckers, welders, plumbers, and the electricians, As an independent philosopher, artist, athlete, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, marching east, here from NDG, Montreal, in Hawk Island, HAWK, Hawk Island Metropolis, is a big island surrounded by a river. And yours truly as a philosopher, as an artist, athlete, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, or geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and of course mystic, who has predicted actually what's happening now. Back in October/November 2019, so more than 4 or 5 years ago, I have predicted an international conflagration, and so made, created, and produced a workout training program system which requires no equipment, which is made hand in hand to go with that World War III scenario. So I've been in a kind of World War III mode ever since, of course, 2019. So being that I'm in that mode, I always encourage citizens to work out, train, exercise, and it is my medicine and therapy of choice. It does me good. I'm already 5 minutes in the march, and I already feel a little bit on that better side, I'm pretty joyous, but I am financially stressed. I'm about $10,000 in debt, but I got everything I need. Right here, my home, Montreal, is a big island, 2.5 million people, so gotta sing some rock and roll for those public bus drivers. I'm gonna show off my red backpack because I got those red gloves, and maybe we're gonna do a little boxing at top because it's a Dragon versus Trump special series. Have been able to continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border, and here in the community we got a little bit of that fridge. Now it's empty, but maybe when I come back it's gonna be full, and I wish I could fill it up, and I gotta do some cleaning, volunteering myself. But this is a fridge here, and sometimes I take food from the fridge, and sometimes I put, sometimes I take, I guess sometimes you take, you put. And here we got a bit of what's called a Sunshine Food Pantry. sunshine, food pantry and fridge, and there we go. We got a little bit of that good stuff here, you know, for the community, which I have myself taken I take pretty regularly, so sometimes I put, but I take more than I put nowadays, you know. I take more than I put, but I guess my pudding is, I'm just gonna go something there. Just gonna go take a look. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street, because you never know what is happening here. What is the Panera closed? I used to come sometimes here, but now it seems that it closed, and now I saw the flag, so I was wondering if they started reopening again. There's the flag, and working for you, NDG. I gotta launch my own campaign, you know, with how much I'm gonna, I guess with $5. I'm gonna launch my campaign. My campaign is kind of simple, straightforward, and although it can have some complexity behind it, it is pretty much simple and straightforward. And my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, as a philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst, and activist and artist, you know, I have predicted what's happening now back in 2019. And my brothers and sisters, the king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent, and I'm not gonna pledge allegiance to the king. The king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent. With all due respect, wishes well, and I really have no debt, DBT debt to the King of England whatsoever, but that's what it is now, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So I really have no debt to the King of England whatsoever, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go, you know. So it's something which we gotta be mindful of, you know. It's here in the North American complex, as we are endeavored, of course, to work out, train, exercise, and that's gonna be one of my top 5, I guess, principles, you know, to encourage people to stay physically active and physically fit. And since the king is absent, my brothers and sisters, pledge your allegiance to our family. My platform is gonna be for implementing the DRT, and the king is absent, and it's time for the republic. It's time for the republic, it's time for the republic, it's time for the dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. For a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex, across the collective North American civilizational complex. You know, as we are Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, we're part of the North American civilizational complex with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get on the go, you know. So it's something which we gotta be mindful of, you know. Civilization is a privilege, you know. So my centrism, democratic Republican here, Quebecer Canadian who was born in the United States 3 times post 1776. Once was born as a woman, you get that 50-50 now. Once you was born as a woman, you get that 50-50 now. Once was born as a woman, you get that 50-50. You get that 50-50 now, you know. So getting that 50-50, my call is for a public-private partnership. I gotta watch it here. It's a bit slippery on the side, you know, so that's all we gotta get doing. And of course, I gotta give a salutation to the construction workers, because they rock and roll on those cranes, and rock and roll I got by the plane in plenty of lanes. So there it is. That big tall residential building in my neighborhood was built with cranes, and I got a little bit of a crane fetish. A little bit of a crane fetish. You know, people with Asperger's like myself, you have these special interests, and kind of a little bit on that special interest, and we gotta go for that, and so we gotta get a little bit of those special interests. And of course, some things where we got weird, you know, odd, weird, strange type of little interests, such as my fetish for cranes, you know, cranes which kind of enabled the building of big buildings like that one. Without cranes, we were not able to platform big buildings like that. Without cranes, we'll not be able to go up and build so many high-storied buildings. So now, you know, the first cranes were, well, that's debatable historically, but the first cranes, it was ancient Egypt / ancient Sumer. Ancient Sumeria. Sumeria is where Babylon was, Mesopotamia, you know, the cradle of civilization, but it's kind of ancient Egypt, you know. And being a past life where I lived both in ancient Egypt, ancient Sumer, and Rome, you know. So to build the Colosseum, It took cranes, and to build our Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border is going to require cranes, because my call is to build via public-private partnership the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Arena Coliseum NFL stadium. And it's just not NFL, it's multi-sports, but which is called the, now today is the Caesars Superdome, but it was called the Mercedes-Benz, and before that had another name, so we changed names just like I changed names, because today, you know, until tomorrow, I'm being celebrating 5 years since survived COVID. You know, 5 years ago, had COVID in my room off Sun Temple, and I thought I was gonna die. You know, I thought that was my last chapter. I thought I was dead and done for. Somehow I survived. Somehow I survived COVID in between February 7th, 2020 and end of March. But mid-February I started feeling really, really sick. And then mid-March I was starting feeling better. So anywhere between February 7th till March, end of March, I was very sick. I had COVID, the first time COVID, and I got triple vaccines, 3 vaccines. Triple vaxxed here, citizen. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. I know when I say COVID was like death, pestilence, and disease, it kind of sounds like a hardcore type of death trash metal song, you know? Kind of those death trash metal songs, but that's how I really felt. I really felt sick and ill, and I always say I died during COVID, and nothing that I will to go back to, but I take carpe diem every day, but I have hope for tomorrow, you know, especially by implementing my Trinity of theories, the CIT citizen integration theory, DRT debt fusion theory, the DFT democratic fusion theory, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we're gonna go doing with that, and yours truly to go, you know, to be on the go, and of course the DRT, and of course not only that, but to implement the Trinity of theories, and of course the implementation of the theories via love, you know, the Trinity theories. There gotta be some love, because it's not all about money, it's not all about yes, we gotta have some love, and sometimes try to go some justice, and second chances and redemption, you know. So I thought I was gonna die. It was like, I know when I say it was like death, pestilence, and disease on my enemies, please. It sounds like a death hardcore trash death rock and roll death trash metal song, you know. Kind of that's what it sounds like. It makes that's what I felt, but it sounds like a, you know, one of those hardcore death trash metal songs, you know, trash metal, hardcore, heavy metal, hardcore trash, death metal, trash metal, all that more hardcore type of rock and roll, you know. So that's how it sounds like, but that's how I felt. So I did die in 2020, being reborn, and changed my name, but still officially I don't have enough goddamn money to change my name, and that's what I'm gonna be with that. So it's something which we gotta be on the love, you know, and something which we gotta be on the loving with that. So it's something which we gotta be mindful of, you know. So as I'm going east now to my second home, and you know, that's COVID, got triple vax, and I encourage all to keep the protocols of hygienic protocols. The hygienic protocols, I believe we have to maintain them to the fullest possible dimension and extension, you know, because, listen, I don't know what caused COVID. My belief, this is my holy trinity surrounding COVID, is that COVID was caused by snakes, but I don't have a proof. I have a doubt. So of course, having a doubt is that, of course, I cannot rule out another possibility. I cannot rule out another possibility. Having that I cannot rule out another possibility, I don't know what caused COVID. I believe it was snakes, but I cannot be certified. I cannot be certain. I cannot be certain. So due to the fact that I cannot be certain of what caused COVID, I cannot rule out another possibility. That's my trinity. First and foremost, I believe it was caused by snakes. Second, I don't know. And thus, because I don't know for sure, there's a doubt, I cannot rule out another possibility. That's my holy trinity on the origins of COVID. Fourth dimension to that trinity is what I do know 100% without any doubt whatsoever, is that before COVID, and I got proof of the work, before COVID, I had created a workout training program system designed to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, an international conflagration, which of course, has become reality in many ways, parallel to my analysis and my verdict and my dictum and my prediction. But my prediction wasn't necessarily like a prophecy or a prophetic, self-fulfilling prophetic manner, but it was based on what I do on a daily basis, which is geopolitical theoretical analysis, or general geopolitical theoretical analysis. And I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, parallel to being an artist, an athlete, a philosopher. So pardon on being on that go with that. That's what I do. And I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. Back in 2019. So basically, I predicted what's happening now in a general manner, not in an overall manner. And to make a fundamental essence of my belief was that due to the fact that many civilizations, nations, states, geopolitical regions, and civilizational complexes and countries have not fully resolved with other countries, nations, states, geopolitical regions, and civilizational complexes or civilizations, their conflicts, which have dated to the 20th century. The Second World War period and the Cold War period, which of course the Cold War period lasted a long time, between March 1947 and December 1991. So due to that fact is of course the reality, which of course has to be made in consequence to that. So that's what we gotta get doing with the LOVE. So that's what we gotta get doing on that, so it's something which we gotta be maintenance about. So that was my main fundamental analysis, but it was of course based on several other fundamental analysis in more detailed manner, but generally that was the main premise of the motive for the coming international conflagration, World War III, which I had predicted in October/November 2019, and I have several videos discussing the World War III scenario and the coming type of World War III international conflagration situation, and it was multi-layered, multi-dimensional, but generally that was it. And basically that's what's been happening in the past years. If you take Israel, Palestine, the Arab world conflict, there's our conflicts which predate the 21st century. They date back their roots in the 20th century. There are conflicts which did not find a final resolution, and they were not fully resolved, and they had restarted. What is a bunny? Oh, you saw? I don't know if it was camera captured. He was kind of scared a little bit, but we have rabbits, bunnies. So that was the main premise, that humanity is again set towards an international conflagration. And so I've made and created that workout training program system to go hand in hand with such a scenario. And that's also Russia-Ukraine, right? A conflict. And I'm not on the ground with 300 men and women, or men, women, 50-50s like myself, androgynous beings or citizens, to assess the situation on the ground and to spend some time and go do some reconnaissance and go, immerse a little bit, see exactly what's on the ground. That's why as much as I can analyze and do, I do it from a North American perspective, from a Canadian perspective, from a Quebecois perspective, because this is my home, and personally I do not consider myself a member of a diaspora. Personally, I do not consider myself a diaspora member. Personally, I do not consider myself a member of a diaspora. This is my home, and also was here in a past life, sometimes a woman, a man, Quebecois. I met Louis Cyr, the strong, super strong, super strong man, supposedly, because I mean, from all we know, but maybe his strength was even more, or a little bit less, or kind of somewhat precise, or even more, but supposedly he was very, very strong, Louis Cyr. So I met Louis Cyr in a past life, and I served in the United States Army. 2 different wars, same army. The wars were 156 years apart. 156 years apart, 156 years apart. And here I am on this 27th of March, Thursday. Gotta get back before noon to take the compost out, do some laundry loads. Grateful, thankful for the washer dryer, to my anonymous friend, because before I didn't even have a washer dryer. I used to do it a long time with the laundromat. So I used to spend some of that money, and it certainly added value. So if I ever make $1 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion, gonna give 50%, half, to my anonymous friend, and without any hesitation or regret or any reservation, 50%. But what I will to build, because although I'm financially stressed, I got credited from the goddess, GODDSS, 718 trillions of kisses, 718 trillions of kisses, 718 trillions of kisses, trillions of kisses, trillions of kisses, trillions of kisses, kisses I got from the goddess, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and that's all we gotta get on the go. So kisses, 718 trillions of kisses I got credited from the goddess, So I got from the goddess, trillions of kisses I got. Kisses. That's what I got the most, And by those kisses, I'm laying the foundations from the star of heaven, for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. Here for the North American Collective, my dream is fundamentally for a public-private partnership, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get on that rock and roll and build. I will to build the forgotten goddess, GODDSS temple on the Canadian-US border, on the Canadian-US border, on the Canadian-US border, so on the Canadian-US border. So that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, so that's what we gotta get on that go, so it's something which we gotta be mindful, it's mindful, and we gotta be protruding, we gotta be included, we gotta be on that love part, and that's what we gotta be on the go, so that's how we gotta be LOV with that, and that's how we gotta be on the love, So something which we gotta do, and sometimes which we gotta precede, and sometimes which that's what I will to build. So credit also parallel to those kisses to the construction workers willingly loving to build the forgotten goddess GODDSS temple, because I credit me surviving COVID, surviving being attacked by surprise, and surviving much and many of my surviving much of my trauma and being attacked by surprise. I gotta go retrieve from the Jewish general the documents. I just Was attacked by surprise, fell, hit my head in the Montreal Metro, and had a dislocated right arm. Went to the hospital, got replaced, and was put on some medication. Some meds. I was like kind of in a coma a bit for a few days and recovering, and I had my own Silly Empire episode, you know, so that's what we gotta get doing, you know, with the Silly Empire episode, and that's what we gotta get on the conflagration to get it on the go for that, and that's what we gotta get on the love, you know, for the side of the LOV there, you know, so something which we gotta be mindful, you know. Anyways, my trauma survived, got plenty of scars, got scars all over the body, scars all over the body. I guess we live with our scars sometimes, you know, we heal, and I healed a lot, and here I am joyous but financially stressed, and to the construction workers who will to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, to credit feet washing, massages, cooking, rock and roll, kisses, massages, washing of the feet, some of that good for the body. Body is a temple for pleasure and purpose is my philosophy, you know, so it takes blood, sweat and tears. Imagine all building all the North American complex, say all the underground layers to have aqueducts, running water, thank you LOV, to Hydro-Quebec, to have this electricity, the electricians, the plumbers, the welders, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, all the truckers on the road now supplying chains, all the train conductors, warehouse workers. Let's get for that North American Collective Workers Party. Let's get that North American Collective Workers Party and build a Forgotten Goddess Temple for the DGA headquarters, Dancing Goddess Army, aka North American Integrated Dance League. Which is my dream, because dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity. I dance, although I love gridiron football, anything to do with boxing and gymnastics and all general fitness activities and sports 24/7, and of course parallel to sports and rock and roll. And also I will to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, where the first inauguration event is going to be Dragon versus Trump. The inauguration event is going to be Dragon versus Trump. And I've been able to continue to challenge Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border. I started back in 2018, so it's going to be 7 years ago soon. It's a bit more than 6, and I have been able to continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border, and have been since 2018, you know, ever since Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Ever since Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go, you know, with that LOVE. So that's what we gotta get on that side, you know. So that's what I created, and that's what I done, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So LOVE, North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the Forgotten Goddess Temple. And I'm gonna cross the street here, Forgotten Goddess Temple, and of course the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and of course the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Coliseum, North American People's Imperial Coliseum, for sportus in perpetuitis, to have sports in perpetuity 24/7. And the first inauguration match gonna be me boxing Donald Trump. And before Donald Trump imposed tariffs of 10% in 2018 on Canadian aluminum and steel, I was kind of out, you know. I was kind of out of politics. I was just coming out of my depression. I was depressed, suicidal. I remember moving from a very moldy place, lots of black, whitish, reddish, green mold, where I used to live in an underground basement. So there was lots of mold, and I remember moving. Supposedly my anonymous friend moved more than 10 years ago, I guess, 10 years ago or so. I'm not sure exactly. I gotta double check because my memory is kind of on that blackout. You know, I got raw retrograde amnesia, retrograde amnesia. So I have kind of memory loss. Maybe COVID caused it, maybe being attacked by surprise. And, you know, I have flashes of trauma and moving, and that's what it is. Here I am, you know, just joyous, financially stressed, and have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border. Let's build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times 11 times bigger than the 11 times bigger than the 11 times bigger than the Caesars Dome, or the Super Bowl known as Hardball Ball, aka Blackout Ball, aka Hardball Ball, Blackout Ball, aka Hardball Ball, where one of my favorite top 5 Super Bowls. Although my 49ers lost by 3 points, I'm calling on the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, to, of course, reduce the tickets by 44.9%, 44.9%, 44.9% by 44.9%, 44.9%, 44.9%, to reduce the ticket costs by 44.9%. You know, that's the call, to reduce the tickets by 44.9%, 44.9%, 44.9%, 44.9%. By 44.9% is the estimated cost that we need to be reduced. My mathematical calculation, to be reduced by the cost for the parallel what's been happening with the prices of goods increasing, the food cost, all the prices have increased so much. So that's what we need to do, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, you know, on the XYZ, and that's what we gotta be doing, you know. So it's something which we gotta be on the love, you know. So that's why we gotta be going to the mountain now and getting on that analysis to get it on the go. And here we are, you know, build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum and build yours truly coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That's what we gotta get doing, and that's what we gotta get on to do, all the way to my second home. So build this building, and also the pyramid, scarlet, crimson and scarlet are shades of red, red, my favorite color. Pyramid, House of the Dragon. And the fourth building which I will to build is the Rainbow People's Palace, for my fellow people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, being that I am androgynous pansexual, get that 50-50, and neurodivergent community, and I am part of this tiny minority of less than 1%, less than 0.5%, less than 0.44%, 0.44%, 0.44%, which is a tiny minority, eh? 0.44%, 0.44%, that is a tiny minority of citizens. So not even 1 out of 300, so it's less than 1%. Less than 0.5%. Estimations come to around 0.44% who have Asperger's, HFA. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a high unemployment rate among people with Asperger's. There's a lot of misunderstandings of what Asperger's actually is in reality. So the reality is that we Aspies, our brains are made different from the majority of the population, the 99.9% 56%, 99.56%, 99.56%. Us, we're 0.44%, less than half, less than 1%, about 0.44%. Our brains are made, the construction of our brains are different. And so certain things, they're very hard for us to process, to understand, and to apply on a daily life, on a daily living, such as, for example, personal space, right? Aspies, even today earlier, my anonymous friend said, you're too close, you're too close, you're too close. So the personal space concept, 1 meter, 2 meters, the Asperger's, that's something which just we have to work on. Again, their characteristics, they're not symptoms. Symptoms is for a malady, for a mental illness, for a malady, for a mental illness, for a malady or for a mental illness, right? Being that is for a malady or for a mental illness, for a mental illness or for a malady, But Asperger's is maybe for a malady or for a mental illness, so for a malady or for a mental illness. But Asperger's is not. It's neither. It's a neurological mental divergent condition which makes me predisposed to obsessive interests, And those obsessive interests are not obsessive in the normative sense, because utilizing the word obsessive, meaning that obsessions are more characterized by a negative connotation, but Asperger's is of course the special interest, so special interest, where we are super focused, super concentrated, super intense, concentrated, focused, super concentration, super intensity. And me with Aspies, we have a routine of and of what we do as on a daily basis, and me revolves around the 3 special interests: geopolitics, sports and fitness, dancing being my favorite sport and fitness activity, and rock and roll, and rock and roll, and rock and roll, and rock and roll, right? So that's my holy trinity. So other aspects can be something else. It could be a preoccupation with history, with certain aspects of an art, with architecture, such as this one is quite a beautiful architecture. So a fellow Aspie might know so many more details about the architectural origins, the architectural designs, the diameter, the radius, the cultural, historical, civilizational aspects behind this building, right? And also Aspies, there's a tendency to utilize too much verbose, intellectual, sophisticated language and linguistic abilities, which might be too much for the moment or for the discussion of the present or whatever topic is discussed, and might seem as perhaps arrogance or as showing off, or intellectually try to prove of being more lofty or keen or wise in an hierarchical aspect and manner. But it's not that, it's just how our brains are. So most aspects, I'm an individual aspects, we tend to have a vocabulary which is more rich, diverse, and sometimes tendencies towards more intellectual and academic use of language. Also could be technical or rich in the terminologies and the vocabulary employed at the moment when we have the conversation and when we discuss certain topics and factors in our daily conversation. So that is something which is a characteristic of the manifestation of an Asperger syndrome. And it's not a mental illness, but it is often equated with mental illness or violence. As one of the books which I recommend is actually appreciating Asperger syndrome. So we might have also sensitivities to certain things. We might be sensitive to some noises, some lights, such as things. I have a certain sensibility, certain sensitivity to certain noises, certain factors of light sometimes, but it's not that I cannot function or that it impedes my focus, concentration, or activities. And we have a routine, and we can have weird habits and manners of interactions, which again, such as when it comes to employment, things, for example, such as gossip. It's something which aspies we do not fully understand from a normative perspective, so an aspie might not engage at all because we don't really kind of, our brains are different, so our understanding and is kind of like, okay, but the person is not here to defend him, her, they, self, whatever the case may be, or to focus on exactly having some solutions with a purpose, or whatever the equation might be for a purposeful or meaningful to attain some solutions or resolutions for well-being or wellness or whatever the case may be. So that is also something which an aspie might, an area of very difficulty. And myself have had many employments and opportunities and employments which I loved, jobs which I loved, but unfortunately they lasted a few weeks, a few months. So it lasted a few weeks, a few months, but consequently, they were not overly prolonged, and they were kind of short-term, short life lived, and that's what it is with that. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. So anyways, so that's what we gotta get doing now, and that's something which we gotta focus on for the love, as I go to my second home. But we have our strengths. Our strengths usually revolve around those special interests. When it comes to geopolitics, that is my kingdom, my realm, my domain, to the point that I have predicted. And sometimes I'm so immersed for hours and hours and hours just revising geopolitical theoretical analysis. And understand geopolitics is a whole universe. It comprises the study of war, warfare, war is a proponent. War is a primary geopolitical event. As my fellow family there, family, go, good for you. Early morning jog. Always love when I see people working out and exercise. So war is a consequential geopolitical main event. Is one of the main events, right, of the world of geopolitics. As an interaction, as an activity between nation states, civilizational conflicts, or geopolitical alliances and regions, which of course we now see new formations on the horizon in the past 5 years. So I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and philosopher. As a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, although I am well versed, I spent many years with one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, read thousands of books and written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy, geopolitical initiatives and protocols, mainly foremost and for the North American Collective Civilizational Complex, with the NATO, and extended to the NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member states, to the NATO Collective, to the North American NORAD complex, and the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I'm just gonna cross through a little bit of football field here. There's a nice football field, gridiron, North American football. So football. So that is the case, which is in the impediment of now being on the trajectory to go on the LOV side of things, and that's how we're gonna get drilling with that, and so we're gonna get on the go to get it on the shuffle and getting on the scuffles and getting on that LOV, So as you can see now, where the Kaisi still goes up there, the mountain, so we're on the mountain, the three-peaked mountain system right between the east and the west, between the west and the east, in the Montreal metropolis island of Montreal, aka Hawk, HAWK Island. And of course it is slightly south. And here we're in Westmount, kind of at the midpoint. And here we are, you know. And you can see down. Sometimes we're over there somewhere, and we point the camera up. So that's what we gotta get doing. And that clock is always 7, kind of 7. That clock, yeah, is it still like that? I don't think it is. It's always 7, the clock. Yeah, it's always the same time. I don't think it has changed since I can remember. See, it's the clock there. Because it's not 7, it's like maybe 6 or something. And my fellow auntie with the doggy, and you know, ever since I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017, that made me really come out of my depression. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, Quebecers, North Americans are my family. And so back when I crossed Canada coast to coast, that made me really come out of being depressed and suicidal. Before that I was depressed, I was suicidal, and crossing Canada coast to coast, that really made me come out of being depressed and suicidal, because I had like an awakening. I said so many things to do, to see across North America, to see across North America. So I started working out, training, and exercising. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. Between 80 and 93 pounds. Estimated loss of weight for me was between 80 and 93 pounds. 80 and 93 pounds. About 80 and 93 pounds. And there we are on the bottom there. And now we're going up to my second home, the mountain. But here's the mountain still, eh? So this mountain is Westmount, is three-peaked mountain system. My home in a past life and another life. Here, right here, on this 27th of March. That yours truly has done, of course, the conflagration. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with the LOVE, you know. So it's something which we gotta be on the love side of things, you know. So something which we gotta be on the love side of things, you know. So that's what we gotta be doing, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, you know, and something which we gotta be manifesting, I guess, in the manifestation type of thing. But it's right between the east and the west, or between the west and the east, but it's south. So it's not exactly centered between the north and the south, but it is between the east and the west, you know. So that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing now. So it's something which we gotta be interjecting. And you know, the sky is clearing, getting ready for that sunset. I want to see that sunset at top Mount Royal, my second home. And here we're in Westmount, one of the three peaks, because there's 3 peaks to the mountain system. It's Westmount, Outremer, and Mount Royal proper. So you can see there. So we can still, it goes up. Sometimes we're there. That's high up the mountain peak called Westmount, because we're going on the other peak called Outremer, and called Mount Royal, and there's another one called Outremer. So there's 3 peaks to the mountain system. 3 peaks. So this house I could split 50-50. Half with my anonymous friend. Half with my anonymous friend. Half with my anonymous friend. Half with my anonymous friend, you know. So that's what it is with that. That's what it is here, you know. So gotta turn my head left or right. That's what it is with that. And there we go. On the go for the south, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know, to getting on the go now. And there we are, you know, to get it on the do, you know. So, you know, that's something which we gotta work on. And here I am, you know, suffered, struggled, got plenty of scars. And I know I have hope, because some youth are gonna be happy, joyous, and dancing, and they're gonna be loving and falling in love, you know. Spring, it's spring officially, and spring, you know, love of spring, going for that summer love. First love, 16-year-old love, 17, eh? Sweet 16, sweet 17, sweet 16, sweet 17, sweet 17, that's sweet 16. So it's gonna be 16, 17 to gonna date and have a nice summer of love, you know. And they're gonna be loving, man. So that's worth defending for. That's worth fighting, carrying a weapon for. Dragon Army, pledge your allegiance, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. I'm gonna fuse Canada, United States. Get healthcare, public-private partnership, implement my DRT theory, and create the Legion, Dragon Army, Legions, 1% of Canada mobilized. I don't know about that 51 state or 63 states, but Donald Trump, Dragon versus Trump is what I know. The dream, dancing goddess, Dragon Kingdom, fusing the North. True North, strong and free. The king is absent. It's also time for some loving. I established a strong esprit de corps in 2017, more than 7 years ago, and I crossed Canada coast to coast. More than 7 years ago, and I crossed Canada coast to coast, and crossing Canada coast to coast, you know. That's when I crossed Canada coast to coast. That's when I got out of being depressed and being suicidal, being depressed. I'm being suicidal, and I established the strongest esprit de corps with my fellow family, fellow Canadians, Quebecers, North Americans, and all ALL, all ALL, all who come to join us, in the free world, for a new world, I guess, a new dawn, you know. Some spirituality and mystic spirituality, and you know, sometimes we gotta keep it simple. It takes a little bit of that old school, the new school, some of that old rock and roll with the new, you know. It's not everything that's old that's bad, you know. The sunshine, I guess. But we need to fuse the North, get Dragon Army, 51 legions or 60, because Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories, and 1 legion for each. If not new, could be from the formation from existing security institutions. And pledge your allegiance, legions that are from, you know. King is absent, the king is absent. We gotta get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And we're only gonna play that defense. We're only gonna play that defense, like that hardball ball. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna play that defense, like that hardball ball. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, like that hardball ball. And there we go up. We go up, and I'm gonna play that defense like that hardball ball, aka blackout ball. Blackout ball. One of my favorite Super Bowls. So for defense, security, and service. It's a nice bird song. That was a nice bird song. So the Dragon Army is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex in order to mobilize from existing security forces and armies established, mobilize an additional 1% to be for the Dragon Army to serve as a new 21st century integrated Canada United States institution for security and service and defense, for security, service and defense, for security, service and defense, for security, service and defense, you know. That's gonna be like for that, and that's what I'm gonna get doing. So see how it goes down here. Gotta turn my head left and right. See how it goes down, slope, and there it goes up like that. So here we are on a mountain, like the West Mountain. So it's basically a mountain. A mountain. That's what it is with that. That's what it is, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So something which we gotta be LOVE with that. So you know, something which we gotta be meditating, and the air is kind of, here's a lot of civilization, but the air kind of also feels, you know, because as you go up the mountain in altitude, there's a slight noticeable difference. Although there's some pollution because there's cars. And so back to what I was saying, the Dragon Army, based on my protocols, initiatives, and philosophies, you know, to be for security, service, and defense integrated, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, build new supercomputers and places where fellow citizens can go and monitor, have to know everything that's coming in, coming out, ports to ports, all the airports. It's best if we focus on the ports and the airports, on the ports, and the airports is best if we focus on the ports, and the airports is best if we focus on the ports, and the airports is best if we focus on the ports, and the airports, it's better if we focus on the ports and the airports, 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 on the ports. See how it goes up there on the side, and then it goes down, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. That's what we go doing with that. That's what we're gonna get doing, So if you go on the coast, and that's what it is with that. And if we focus on the ports and the airports best on the ports, and the airports best on the ports and the airports. There's another bunny. I love you, bunny. Wow, I saw 2 bunnies today. Okay, bunny. Love you later. Bun. Gotta get doing on the XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing on the love, So the Dragon Army, that's what it is, That's what we gotta get doing. See how it goes up, and the Dragon Army, to establish it, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, So something which we gotta get, something which we gotta get on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing, So something which, not the bird again, a bird, we gotta get on the go, So something which we gotta meditate upon. So back to the Dragon Army, to be for security service, security and service, only for security service, based on my initiatives and protocols. Initiatives, oh, that's a nice beep, see that? That's a nice beep, That's a nice beep. That's what you gotta get doing, So we gotta get. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get on that XYZ, So that's what we gotta get. That blue sky. What? So we gotta get on that Pledge of Allegiance, and the Dragon Army to serve as a purpose for security service and defense only. Mobilize and coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and of course to be fundamentally a public-private partnership, and be established with the building of the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, parallel complementary to the Dancing Goddess Army, the North American Integrated Dance League, 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 to be for security, service, to be for security, service, to be for security and service, and that's all we gotta get doing with that. To be for security service, based on some philosophies such as the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose and emergency response, but for the collective North American civilizational complex, and the NATO troops and our allies can come, I can drill them here, and If you want, the king is absent, king is absent, king is absent. But if King Charles wants for me to call him king, well, he's gonna have to come march for a minimum of 4 hours, 18 minutes. And close to 45 seconds, close to 45, 44 and 9 11, 44 and 9 11s, 44 and 9 11, the fraction 9 11s. Hear that birdie? That's nice music. Some people actually can know what the bird is. This house too, I can split with my anonymous friend. What name is the street here? D. Ramsey. I can split half, that would be perfect. Because now where I live, it's small underground, small underground. Small underground. So we gotta get doing, so small underground, So we got doing with that, and so we gotta get doing, So it's half, small underground, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, So that's so nice. Birds singing, chirping in the morning for the sunrise. Before the sunrise, For the sunrise. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, and here we are. So the right now to be for the North American civilizational complex. As a philosopher, of course, I discuss my belief, theoretical belief, but some would say that it's a theory, but mine is just a knowing in the essence of the philosophy that as Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, we constitute a North American collective, a North American civilizational collective, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and that's what we gotta get, so something which we gotta do, and something which we gotta establish, So the North American Civilizational Collective, or the North American Civilizational Complex, the North American Civilizational Complex, or the North American Collective is, of course, my proponent and belief and knowing that us here we constitute a new and emergent civilizational collective, and with which, of course, my brothers and sisters in the USA and even Mexico is part of the North American Civilizational Collective. Mexico, Quebec, Canada, the North American complex, and that's what we gotta get doing on the LOV side, and that's what we gotta be loving, So we constitute a North American civilizational complex, a collective civilizational complex of the North American civilizational complex of the North American collective. That's what we constitute, and an emergent civilizational collective which is not totally divorced from Western civilization but is distinct. So we're not totally divorced, but we are distinct. So we're not divorced, but we are distinct from Western civilization from Western civilization. So we have a distinction, but we're not divorced. So we're not divorced, but we're not distinct. We're not distinct. So we're not divorced, but we're not distinct. So we're distinct, but not divorced. We're divorced, not divorced, but distinct. So we're distinct, but not divorced. 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 So those are main principles of my philosophy known as the North American Civilizational Collective, or the Collective North American Civilizational Complex, of which we are new, because here's a new world, Other civilizational complexes, they are sometimes hundreds of years old, sometimes thousands civilizations, but we constitute an emergent civilizational collective. So that's why I say the king is absent, and I didn't like the fact that Mark Carney pledged allegiance to the King of England. I didn't like it. I just didn't feel it, I just didn't feel it. And just pledge allegiance to all who come to the land known as Canada. And I have Canada tatted up, Canada, I don't remember when I got the tats and the tattoos. Like I said, I remember mostly 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe years, and maybe stretching at 11, but kind of my memory got that blackout, It's hard for me to remember my life outside of the island. And I don't know if I did. Memory loss sometimes comes back. I don't know if I did hard drugs, because I don't do drugs and stuff like that, but that's what it is. So anyways, now I'm going to discuss the DRT, debt refusion theory, Super important for me to discuss the DRT before I forget, because it is important and crucial, because it has been and is and will be part of my work as a philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and philosopher, artist, and geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and that's what it is with that, and that's what it is for the go. So it's something which I gotta be on the prudent side of things, and on the prudent side of things I gotta get on the go with that. And here we are. So the DRT, debt refusion theory. Here is the mountain, the other peak, because we're traversing from Westmount Peak to the other peak, and there you can see part of the downtown core area, part of the downtown core area of Montreal. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the universal exchange unit, So we got to get on that creation of the universal exchange unit. The universal exchange unit is, of course, something which we're going to be creating. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory is, of course, the only solution. Why do I make it the statement that is the only solution? Is the fact gotta be the ice here. I gotta be careful because sometimes it's slippery. So I gotta be careful because it's kind of icy. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, is the only solution. So why do I make the statement that the DRT is the only solution? Due to the fact that we paid last year 46.5 billion in interest. 46.5 billion in interest. That was the amount of interest which we paid on the public debt back in 2024. So just last year. So that number, if you make an equation, I gotta be some ice. It's icy there. It's like black ice there, it's just that corner there. And for the public works to put some salt with slipped a bit. So there is patches of black ice. You gotta be prudent, So I'm just gonna go. Now I'm gonna go enter by the other side of the mountain, and just gonna drop a little bit of the garbage here. Anyway, so we're gonna enter by the other side now, and we're gonna go all the way across the street here. So we're gonna discuss the DRT, debt refusion tree for the creation of the UE. Again, why do I make the statement that it is the only solution, or if not the only solution per se, my DRT, but something which is modeled fundamentally in essence, principled after my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which is fundamentally the solution. Now, where we are today, well, we have arrived today, where we have arrived today, in terms, I'm just gonna go enter by the other side and come out by the other side. That's what I'm gonna do. So here, I'm gonna go, because the mountain sometimes we enter by this side, the mountain sometimes we enter the other side, and the other side, and another side. There's many sides, or sometimes we enter this side. Now we're gonna enter by the kind of, I calculated 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth side. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, stands for D, debt, R, refusion T theory, and is fundamentally the only theory which can, of course, save us for the international conflagration of where we are now, So that's where we are now, the DRT, debt refusion theory. So it is fundamentally the only theory, well, something which resembles my theory, which can save us from a potential black swan event, which is on the horizon. Actually, it could start when Wall Street opens at 9:30. I think we're close to, if I'm 70 minutes into the video and I left at 5:15, it's around 6:30. It's around 6:30 a.m. now. Around 6:30 a.m. It's around maybe 6:25. Between 6:25 and 6:30 a.m. in the morning, because sun's about to rise, my king, the holy Pope. My Pope, the king. Anyways, when you say Pope on TV, I always think the sun, and that's my Pope. P-O-P-E, the king. So, S-U-N. Who now rises and now sets every second somewhere. There's a sunrise and a sunset. So when the sun is going to rise here, it's setting somewhere. When the sun is going to rise here, it's setting somewhere. When the sun is going to rise here, it's setting somewhere. So that's what we're going to be doing, So the DRT theory, I got to send some love. My fellow cousin, the nurses in the public, firefighters. Please, Wall Street billionaires, millionaires, don't be so effing selfish. Finance the nurses and the firefighters and the doctors and those who pick up the garbage, the compost, the garbage, the recycling, those 3 services, part of the public sanitation protocols. Please finance them. Finance them a massage therapy session. Finance them a massage therapy sessions. Feet washing sessions, massage therapy sessions. Give charity for that, and give charity, be charitable. Millionaires and billionaires of the North American Collective of Canada, United States. So that's what we're gonna be doing with that. That's what we're gonna be on the go, So that's what we're gonna get doing on those XYZs, So that's what we're gonna get doing, with the XYZ. So we're gonna get on that love, So the DRT theory, paradoxically, is the only solution. The solution is the DRT. There's no other way around it, the DRT. Because we paid last year 46.5 billion in interest. 46.5 billion in interest. 46 billion in interest. 46 billion in interest. Just the interest on the public debt. So that's my motive for making that statement, because the interest paid has been so high. So just the amount of interest which was paid on the debt, that's 46.5 billion. Can you imagine that? That's just a staggering amount. That amount, 46.5 billion. I'm going to give you 44, almost 45, almost 45, 44 seconds, almost 45. To think about that for a second, 46.5 billion. I love you too, crow, crow, crow. Even the crows again says, yes, yes, yes. So you can also go by that side. Should we go by that side? I guess we could, but I'm just gonna go. I decided I wanted to go by the other side, so that's why I'm gonna go like that, and then go back home, because this is gonna be an hour. So the 46.5 billion, a billion is 1,000 million, right? So 46.5 billion is the equivalent of 46,000 million, because a billion has 9 zeros, so 46,000 million, that's 46.5 billion. Oh, we're starting to see that red a bit on the horizon. Red, sun is red and rising, red and setting. Nations clash and empires falter, timpani but to thy dance. Nations clash and empires falter, timpani but to thy dance. Nations clash and empires falter, timpani but to thy dance. Papa Crowley wrote that poem. It's one of my favorite poems. So, yeah. So the debt, interest on the public debt has more than doubled. In 2020, 2021, it was not 46.5. That's closed. It was 20.3. 20.3 is still a huge amount. 20.3 billion is 20,000 million, right? So 20,000, because a billion has 9 zeros, not 7, not 8. A billion is 1,000 million. 1 billion is 1,000 million. 1 billion is 1,000 million. So the number was the number was the number was the number was my eye. The number was 46.5, was 20.3. 20.3 double would have been 40.6. So 40.6, the number is 46.5. So double 20.3 would have been 40.6. 40.6. 20.3 would have been 40.6. 40.6. That would have been still big, huge double. But it's more than double. So the point is, financial mathematical principle is that the interest only on the public debt has doubled. More than doubled. Because double would have been 40.6. In 2020, 2021, the number of interest was 20.3 billion. And these numbers you can verify, with the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklin, governor, my uncle, my auntie Freeland resigned from Minister of Finance, but nonetheless, these numbers are verifiable. They're made public, so you can actually consequentially do and verify yourself. So you can just check. And of course, I know this because it's geopolitics. It's part of geopolitics. Public finance, internal, domestic, external, public finances of my country, Canada, and other countries, and it's part of the geopolitics interplay of geopolitics. So you have to have some knowledge when you study geopolitics, at least a certain level. Not necessarily expertise advanced, but a general manner of the public finances, which finance public works, aqueducts, building LOV, to the public workers of the North American Collectif, firefighters, and those who pick up the garbage, sanitation, and those who clean up the compost, and whatever the case may be for that. So that's what we gotta get doing, so is something which we gotta be doing. So whatever the case may be, whatever the case may be with that is something which we gotta be interplaying on the positions, so we gotta get doing to get on the XYZ with that. So something which we have to implement it. My DRT theory, there's no way we're on the verge of a public financial collapse because of the principle of interest. Mathematical financial principle is that, and there's no way out of this, just how today's financial system is and has evolved over the decades from the 20th century to now the 21st century. The fact is that it cannot be sustained because our economy, the GDP of Canada, our GDP, the economy, or however we quantify the economy of Canada as a whole, has not doubled. It increased by 1%, 2%, sometimes it went in a negative, If it would have been double, if it would have doubled also in this short amount of period, and yes, the interest has more than doubled due to COVID. So COVID was the main cause, but not the only cause. The main cause, but not the only cause, because of COVID we had to implement protocols for the maintenance of the population in terms of whatever the health and financial crisis deemed from when it started in February 2020, and now of course we had the revision by the CIA that it was possible. The most likely explanation was that it was made in a laboratory. The most likely explanation was that it was made in a laboratory. That was the principle, that it was a new revision, that it was made in a laboratory. So man-made origins rather than my belief that it was snakes. And I don't know for sure, I have a doubt, so I cannot rule out another possibility. But what I do know for sure is that just before COVID, I predicted there was going to be an international conflagration, and I predicted the type of World War III scenario. So now, and I survived COVID, I had it, I'm celebrating with this march to the mountain. It's a celebratory march of me surviving COVID, so that's what it is with that. So me having survived COVID, here I am with a solution on the table. Paradoxically, I am financially stressed. I have plenty of scars and survived COVID, and scars on even on the privates, androgynous genitalia. That's what it is with that, and that's all we gotta do. So I'm applying a cream. I was scratching, and I don't know the origins. It's probably forever, but I did consult before I went to see if it was a disease. I got tested for sexually transmitted diseases a few years ago, but it's not from a sexual. Anyways, I'm not going to go into that, but diverge the DRT, debt refusion theory, back to the debt refusion theory. So again, due to the fact that the interest has more than doubled, just the interest payments, you imagine, the interest payments doubling. Imagine a financial mathematical principle that just as an individual, let's say citizen XYZ, if that individual's interest payments double. If the individual's interest payments double, that's all we gotta get doing with that. So if the individual's payments double, that's all we gotta get doing. So if the individual's interest payments more than double, if the individuals, I gotta love the youth. If the individuals' payments double without the salary doubling, that's the point. If the salary of an individual citizen, myself, I don't have credit cards myself. Gotta watch it because I slip, and then fall on the black ice. So if an individual's interest payments, let's say, in just a short amount of time, in 3 years, like it happened with the public debt of Canada, if they double or more than double, as is the case, that means that automatically that individual XYZ has to reduce the spending. You cannot sustain. What are you gonna have to cut as an individual? I don't know. If you smoke cigarettes, maybe stop smoking cigarettes. maybe stop smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes myself, but if one does, if one does. So we're gonna enter the mountain by here. Gonna enter the mountain by here today. The other stairs is there, but just gonna enter by here. So you're gonna have to reduce the spending. You're gonna have to cut the budget. You're gonna have to budget. So you're gonna have to cut XYZ. I don't know, if you go out to the movies, you're gonna have to cut the movies, and you're gonna have to reduce the spending. Oh yeah, this is because sometimes it's ice. So what this says in French is best if you use crampons and protection for the feet, so you don't slip, because we have tough, rough winters. But now it's in French there. And here you can get an aperçu of the place here, my second home, the mountain, and you can check it a little bit. You can have coffee. This is the headquarters of the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. Headquarters of the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. The headquarters of the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. You have the communication antenna, communication tower, the summit, and you have those two, and then you have the thing there, and you have the. Yeah, this is basically like my second home and the headquarters of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. This is my mistress. It's not just mine, but this is my second home, and my crows are my friends, although hawks, H-A-W-K, the hawk. The hawks are my totem bird, hawk, and we got hawks here. So back to the DRT, debt refusion tree. Just as an individual has to pay. If the payments in the interest doubles, right? If one has citizen X, citizen Y, citizen Z, whoever citizen. Myself, again, I do not have credit cards. I have a credit line. I am $10,000 in debt to the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. $10,000. I pay 10.44% interest. 10.44% interest. 10.44% interest. 10.44% interest. 10.44% interest. 10.44% interest. 10.44. But if an individual's interest payments more than double, then that individual XYZ has to automatically reduce the spending unless the salary doubles. You're gonna have to cut something, whether going out to the movies, whether smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes myself. Cannabis is legal. Drinking and going out to the movies, going out to the clubs, maybe going out, stop ordering food. One has to reduce and cut the spending. So the same mathematical principle applies to the as applies in the private. The mathematical financial principle of interest payments in the private and thus in the public is the same thing. So we're gonna have to cut. What are we gonna cut in the public services? The police, RCMP, which I served in the past life before it was named the RCMP. Sometimes I was born a priestess, or a goddess, a farmer, a warrior, a soldier. Read that George Patton's Through a Glass Darkly. I was born in the USA 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Army, 156 years apart, in 2 different wars. And that's what we're gonna get doing with that. So that's what we're gonna get doing. So basically, what I'm saying is that we have to reduce the spending. We have to reduce. There's no way out of this. We have to reduce the spending in the public. So what are we going to cut? The prisons. I am all for the North American criminal rehabilitation, and I have written pages and documentation, of course, and initiatives for the Criminal Rehabilitation Act, and Criminal Rehabilitation Act, of my fellow brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. Gotta sing that rock and roll for those who do their redemption and serve for justice and some counterbalance for my brothers and sisters, boys and girls in blue. Somebody gotta sing that rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue. Ain't nobody perfect, that includes that me and you. Somebody gotta sing that rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue. Ain't nobody perfect, that includes that me and you. Gotta have some justice and redemption. But the point is that we're gonna have to cut, reduce the spending, reduce. So what are we gonna cut in the public? The sanitation, picking up the garbage, picking up the compost, picking up the garbage, picking up the compost, picking up the garbage or the compost, Those are public services. Those are public services which we're gonna have to cut and reduce the spending. And reduce. We're gonna have to cut and reduce. Cut and reduce the spending. There's a place for lost objects, by the way. There's a place for lost objects. If you find stuff here, and please don't pollute if you come here, because we got flora and fauna. So the mathematical financial principle, due to the fact that the interest payments have doubled on the public debt, of course, is the principle is that we have to reduce and cut in the budget in the public, the prisons, those who pick up the garbage, the compost, the recycling. We're gonna have to cut something. We're gonna have to reduce the spending. We're gonna have to reduce the spending. We're gonna have to reduce the spending. We're gonna have to reduce and cut in the budget. There's just no way out of this. So that's why my DRT theory is the solution, or something very similar. Because our GDP didn't double. If the GDP would have doubled, yes, then it would have been different. But it only increased by 1%. As to the salary of individuals, the average price is increasing is about 44.9%, while the average salary increase from 2020 to 2025 this year has been 4.4%. 4.4%. 4.4% has been 4.4%. 4.4%. So that is just what it is with that. So 4.4%, that is what the salary is, you know. So the average increase in salary has been 4.4. 4.4%. That's just the average increase. 4.4%. 4.4%. That is just the average increase in the salary. So that's what we're gonna go do it. C'est cousines qui sont là. My cousin's there to get it on the XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get loving with that, and that's what we gotta get on the love, you know, to getting on that jogging. Bravo, Civilisation. Congratulations. I always love when I see people going for that jog and see that sunset is coming red, and I love people physically fit and active. And my DRT, you know, as I go to the top of the mountain, we're gonna get it on the go and explain it. So the debt refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. All the public and the private debt. And my DRT, debt refusion theory, includes monetary integration theory. Again, there's no way out of this situation where we are now with the public and the private financial system and situation. So yours truly, there's no other situation. There's no other solution but something very similar to my DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and my DRT theory contains monetary integration theory, which is a financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, the Europeans got rid of their central banks, national central banks, Germans, Italians, French, and they destroyed, and they annulled their old national central banks. So they destroyed their old national central banks. They don't have central banks anymore. They don't have central banks anymore. They have a multinational integrated central bank, right? They don't have national central banks. So my DRT theory, debt refugee theory, includes monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory. And monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, and we're going to, of course, refuse it. That's it, that's all, and that's all we got to get doing with that. And so we got to get doing with XYZ, and we got to get it on the XYZ, and we got to get doing on the go, you know. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. So all the public and the private debt, including my $10,000, your $10,000, and that's what it is with that, and that's what it's gonna go doing. And we gotta get by that side, but it's closed. And I guess we're gonna go by the side. So that's what it's gonna be doing with that, and so we're gonna get on the drill, you know. So there it is. The sunset. Sun says somewhere, sunrise here. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and that's all we got to get it on the LOV side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And here we are, all the public and the private debt. Yeah. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public and the private debt. We're gonna take it, of course, and we're gonna convert it into US dollars, because US dollars is the currency of choice for world trade, international business, and import-export. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and we're gonna take it all, the public and the private debt, and convert it into US dollars. So all the public and the private debt, we're gonna get it for the XYZ, and that's how we're gonna get it, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. So all the public and the private debt is gonna be in the trillions, you know. So all the public and the private debt is gonna be in the trillions. So we're gonna take it all coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna add it with the United States dollars. We're gonna add it with the United States dollar. All that add it all up. We're gonna, of course, create a common currency known as the UE. So all the debt, public and private, converted the Canadian dollar debt into US dollar debt, and that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ. So all the debt, public and private, we're gonna convert it, of course, into US dollars. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and that's what we're gonna be doing. So you're gonna need to put a little bit of that flag. That's Montreal flag there. That's Montreal flag right there. That's what it is with that. So we're gonna see, there's this Montreal. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. What is that? I'm not sure what that is. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. That's what we're gonna get doing. That's what we're gonna get doing with that. That's what I'm gonna get doing, man. Here we are. Rachdi. Rachdi, rachro. Soleil rachro. Soleil, soleil. Rachdi, shmila. Soleil, soleil, mon frère, soleil. Racho, rachdi. Rachdi, soleil, soleil. Rachdi, shmo, racho. Bon, j'en pense, c'est tout le film. Soleil, soleil, mon frère, chante. Racho, rachdi. Racho, rachdi. There we go. So that's what we're gonna get done with that. Rachdi, tishwa. Tachikutok, tishwa. Anyways, they're singing to the sun. That's good. Anyways, yeah, man, that was a good song. That's what it is, you know. Yeah, somebody was singing about the sun, so I tried to get in on that lyrics. So we gotta get doing with that. I gotta get doing on that, you know. So back to the DRT, the debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. So that's what we're gonna be doing. The debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the UE. I'm gonna get the XYZ and gonna get the DRT, debt refusion theory. So we're gonna create we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, public and the private debt, and public and the private debt, and all of it converted, public private debt, all the debt, public and the private debt. We're gonna convert it into US dollars, add it with the US, and all that money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank. For a new central bank, whatever we call it, is gonna be the UE, the UE, the UE. U dot universal, U dot exchange, U dot unit, universal, U dot universal, U dot exchange, U dot unit, the UE, the UE, the UE, U dot universal, U dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit, the universal exchange unit, the UE, the UE, the UE, the universal exchange unit, you know. That's what we gotta get doing with that, yeah. So that's what we gotta get doing, the universal exchange unit. We're gonna create the UE, the UE, the UE, you know. So we're gonna get doing on that go. So we're gonna create the universal exchange unit, and here we're gonna go deep. Okay, so all the debt, public and private debt, we're gonna get it on the public and private debt, and that's what we're gonna get on the love side of things, you know. The universal exchange unit, the universal exchange unit, we're gonna get it on the go, you know. So all the debt, public and private debt, that's gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank, of which we're gonna create this new central bank, and that's gonna be the creation of the universal exchange unit, universal exchange unit. That's what it's gonna be, the universal exchange unit. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. So that's what it's gonna be. All the public and the private debt. All the public and the private debt. So nice. All the public and the private debt. All the public and the private debt. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. That money is gonna be the initial money supply. All of it, including my 10,000, yours, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna take all the public on the private debt, you know. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. So all the public and the private debt, we're gonna convert it into universal exchange unit. We're gonna create a new currency, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit, universal exchange unit. So we're gonna create the universal exchanges. We the universal exchange unit. That's going to be the UE. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% maximum. So it's not going to be able to be more than 10% afterwards. It's not going to be able to be more than 10% afterwards. 10%. More than 10%. It's not going to be able to be more than 10% afterwards, you know. So that's what it is going to be. 10% on the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get XYZ with that. So it's something which is gonna be to be doing, you know. So that's what it's gonna be doing with that. So we're gonna have to do, of course, the XYZ, and that's what we're gonna be implementing, you know. So here is the footsteps of a rabbit, I believe, rabbit or whatever creature it is, and that is what is gonna be with that, you know. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. All that debt is gonna be the initial money supply, and that's where we're gonna create the initial money supply. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, That money is gonna be the initial money supply, and now it's time to take a little bit of that main. Let that main out and gotta switch to that French, and that was a nice song there. My, I guess, brother from another mother was singing about the sun in French, and yeah, definitely sing to the sun, sing that rock and roll to the sun. Le Soleil, the sun, my pope, my pope, and maybe his as well, because he was singing something nice about the sun. In French, sun is soleil. French sun is soleil. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. We gotta get it on the go, you know, and sometimes we just gotta be on the transmission side of things, and just gotta be saluting here, you know, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and the ambulance drivers, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And you know, somebody making that LOVE, so waiting for that sunrise, and now the sunset is, and that's what we're gonna get doing. That was a nice song, and the soleil was in French for sun, and sing, my brothers and sisters, if you will, you know, sing freely, and you know, that's it, that's all. You know, I'm somebody who doesn't like violence. I don't like violence, but I'm hyper vigilant, because I lived my own trauma, and you know, been attacked, and I played that defense only, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, pledge your allegiance to our family, and there in the background you can see other Mount Rages, so pledge your allegiance, we're gonna get that universal exchange union as we go, you know, for the collective North American civilizational complex. We're gonna see that sun, we're gonna see all the 40 million, 44 million coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and we're gonna go on another side to check a little bit on the other side, and that's my favorite skyscraper there, the pyramid. So we're gonna get it on the move, and we're gonna get that revision, and now we're gonna go for the revision, and we're gonna tiptoe down, I guess, but we can go for the love here, you know. I gotta be careful, because sometimes there's black ice and you slip, and you gotta be prudent, eh? We're in the wilderness now, and you can see civilization and wilderness, and please don't pollute when you come here, because it's my mistress. But we got rabbits, bunnies, squirrels, and lots of flora and fauna, which can gotta be doing on the love, and that's all we gotta be doing on the love, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the grocery store clerks, and all those involved in the production and the distribution of food. And here we got a little bit of that LOV, you know, for the, I think I'm best if I go by the side, but gotta decide, I guess. One step here, yeah, best if I go, see, because it goes down, there's man-made stairs, but I think the best way, safest way, is by this, like prudent like that. There's a bit. So back to the DRT, debt refugee. We're gonna take all the public private debt, all that money. We're gonna create A new central bank is going to be the initial money supply. We're going to create the UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchanger. Let's go, brother Bill Gates, Bill Gates, Bill Gates. With all that money, we're going to rebuild the North American infrastructure, the North American infrastructure, the North American infrastructure. We're going to rebuild the dams. We're going to build the roads, the aqueducts, the bridges, the roads, the aqueducts, the bridges, the roads, the aqueducts, the bridges. Build more hydroelectric dams, hydroelectric dams, and we're going to start building those 44 tunnels. In case of a thermonuclear war, those 44, the number after 40, 43, before 45, 40, before 43, 445 is of course 44 tunnels, build 44 tunnels, cross the North American complex in case of a thermonuclear war, in case of a thermonuclear war, in case of a thermonuclear war. Hey, there they are. A beautiful black squirrel and one that has like a white tail and a gray, so there they are, you know, they were kind of getting along, cooperating on something for nature, for the greater good, like the DRT, black, white, and rainbow. If you want to come LOV with me, I'm going to card you, you know. You got to be 18 plus, so I'm going to card you. If you want to be loving, you're going to have to be 18 plus, just like buying cigarettes, buying legal cannabis, or going in a club, eh? Black, white men, women, when it comes some of that love with yours truly, a black, white, or LOV, you know, take your fill of will of love with who thou will, where thou will, with consent, you know, how thou wilt, where thou wilt, with who thou wilt, and support the DRT. By the implementation of my DRT deal, we were going to be able, of course, to rebuild the infrastructure of the North American Collective, 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 build 44 dams, more than, correction, 44 tunnels, stack them with food in case of a thermonuclear war, and those 44 tunnels inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, and that's what it is with that, and inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, you know, Cheyenne Mountain Complex, and that's what it is with that, and that's where we're gonna go. So, inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the Montreal Underground Bridge, build 44 tunnels and stack them with food in case of a thermonuclear war. And of course, build more hydroelectric dams, rebuild the infrastructure, the bridges, the aqueducts, the roads. So do lots of work, mass finance, citizens fitness, mass finance, citizens fitness, mass finance, citizens fitness, citizens fitness, mass finance, citizens fitness, citizens fitness, mass finance tourism, because when I crossed Canada, it did me lots of good. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. When I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, it really did me so much good, you know. So much good to cross Canada, and I established a strong esprit corps in 2017 when I crossed it, and I got the solution now, paradoxically, the DRT, debt profusion theory, for the creation of the UE, of the universal exchange. It is something which we have to implement, you know. We have to implement, and that's all we gotta get doing by the DRT to create the universal exchange. We're gonna set an interest rate level on all loans thereafter of 10%. 10% is not gonna be able to be more than 10%. More than 10%. After that, it could be 3.33, 7.18, 4.18, 9.3, and below 10%, 6.1 and 9.3. But whatever the case may be, that's what we're gonna be doing on the XYZ here, you know. So implement the DRT theory. It's an emergency. There's a possibility that when I get back home on the news as a public black swan event refers to a worst case scenario financial possibility which is on the horizon, as I'm here waiting for the semi-public king to get more shine light on. And of course, it's possible that there is a public financial collapse. When I go back home, I might see it, we might see it all, and we might witness it today, starting, if not tomorrow, if not in the coming days, when those tariffs got hit. And, you know, it's not the way to invite us with bullying and tariffs, or tariffs and bullying, with bullying and tariffs, to invite us to join the United States. And, you know, I am for the fusion, but my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom best, and the DRT theory best, debt profusion theory, the debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, you know, the DRT debt refusion theory best, the debt refusion theory best, and that's what it is with that, you know. So the debt refusion theory best and is the only solution, and I'm calling for its implementation simultaneously, Canada and United States, because the United States and Canada are both in a similar financial, both public and private financial circumstances of the finances of both Canada and the United States are very similar and parallel, and so of course we gotta implement it, not Canada first, but Canada and the United States preferably simultaneously at the same time, both Canada and the United States, and create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. You can see part of the river, and the other bridge, how we are surrounded by a big river here, how we're surrounded by a big river. So thank you farmers, butchers, bakers, truckers on the road, railway conductors, the nurses, the electricians, the plumbers, the welders, the butchers, the electricians, the IT workers, those involved in the production, distribution of food. Let's go give some charity. Wall Street millionaires, give 10% support the DRT by Brother Scorpio, Bill Gates, and let's rebuild the collective and mass finance citizens for the workout, training, and exercising, mass finance citizens fitness. And there it is. There it is, the river surrounded by a big river in North American fusion, the north through North strong and free with my brothers and sisters in the south, in the home of the brave, land of the free, home of the brave, land of the brave, home of the free, vice versa. It's not enough. We got to add some of that LOVE, and on the practical financial side of things, we got to implement the debt refusion theory, the DRT for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. It is a must. There's no other way now where we are with the current financial situation but the implementation of my debt refusion theory, which is of course for the collective North American civilizational complex in the manner of which the aforementioned that I have mentioned prior that it is the only solution due to the fact that the interest payments on the public debt, just the interest payments have more than doubled, and of course that is the problem, and during the COVID which caused it. So that is the main problem, and you can see some of those mountains over there, and that's the border. It's best if we focus coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the ports and the airports on the security, the ports and the airports, and institutionalize the legions, pledge your allegiance, the Dragon Army, public-private partnership, and that's what I gotta get doing for that French now, because we liable province here on the mountain, so I gotta put me some work in that French. Et bienvenue, on est déjà sur la montagne québécois et québécoise. Je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. L'entraînement physique, ça a été ma médecine et thérapie de choix, et donc en vous voyant ici sur la montagne, puis je viens d'entendre une bonne chanson tantôt à la montagne. J'ai entendu 3 fois une chanson mentionner le soleil. Qui est mon papa le soleil quand je chante? Pas besoin de l'eau bénite, juste une bière, du vin en place. Mais quelqu'un qui vient chanter pour le soleil, fait que j'ai écouté un peu, fait que ça a été un bon parti quand j'étais au début, puis bien sûr moi je fais mes adorations solaires, et puis tu sais, je suis un mystique, j'ai pas toutes les réponses, mais bien sûr que n'avoir pas toutes les réponses, c'est quelque chose que je dois faire dans cette entente de la démarche, pour en faire de la démarche d'avoir du ménage, pour en faire dans cette traverse-ci, bien sûr, quand je traverse dans cette montagne, bien sûr, j'ai entendu bien sûr qu'il chantait du soleil, donc ça m'a fait du bien, puis on est ici, je dois commencer avec ma gratitude. La gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café puis du thé, puis bien sûr, c'est quelque chose que je dois bien sûr faire de l'entraînement physique, comme je vous encourage tous et toutes, puis je me demande des fois, tu sais, si c'est bien sûr quelque chose qui a fait bien sûr dans l'ensemble du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. C'est quelque chose qu'on doit financement par un partenariat public-privé. Puis bien sûr, quand je dis prêter allégeance légion, vous êtes famille. Je fais bien sûr, je parle dans la constitution de mon rêve qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, qui est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé, qui est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé, bien sûr, fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Puis là, vu que moi-même, tu sais, je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique et a prévu la situation actuelle qui se déroule en ce moment. Je l'ai prévu en 19. Hein. Vous savez que moi, je vis avec une condition de neurodivergence qui s'appelle l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, soit aussi connu comme l'Asperger's. Comme l'Asperger's. L'Asperger's est une condition de neurodivergence. Est une condition de neurodivergence. C'est une condition de neurodivergence. Et bien sûr, cette condition de neurodivergence, ça fait que j'ai des intérêts spéciaux. Des intérêts spéciaux, bien sûr, que il faut que ça fasse dans les intérêts spéciaux que nous, comment qu'on les intègre, qu'on les manifeste, dans le fond, c'est par, bien sûr, une intensité. On est intense, concentré, super dedans, super concentré, super intense, super dedans. Puis ça, c'est la rivière, vous voyez, ça, c'est l'Est, où il y a eu là-bas les Jeux olympiques en 1976, 76, les Jeux olympiques de 76, c'est là-bas qui ont été faits. Fait que, d'où, dans cette situation, bien sûr, qu'on fait les enjeux, l'Asperger's, l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, c'est pas une condition de maladie mentale, encore une fois. Il y a beaucoup de confusion puis de malentendus vis-à-vis l'autisme hautement fonctionnel parce que je vis avec cette condition de neurodivergence, puis ça fait que notre cerveau, en nous, il est différent. Fait que la différence qu'on a, nous, on est une minorité de moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage. C'est 0,44%. 0,44%, 0,44%. C'est 0,44%. C'est moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'1%. C'est pas une petite minorité, hein? C'est moins d'1 sur 300. Fait que nous, on a des intérêts spéciaux. On est super concentré, super dedans, super intense. Puis moi, bien sûr, c'est l'entraînement physique, la marche danse. La danse, c'est mon sport préféré. Puis la géopolitique, puis le rock'n'roll. Fait que c'est constamment ces choses-là. C'est constamment, constance dans ces démarches. Puis cet entraînement physique que je fais moi-même, tu sais, ici. Puis ici, c'est ma deuxième maison, le Mont-Royal. Puis j'adore venir, puis j'adore quand j'entends parler du soleil un peu, tu sais. Et ça faire une chanson du soleil, puis ça a toujours fait du bien quand j'entends parler du soleil, parler du soleil. Parlez-moi du bon soleil, parlez-moi du bon soleil. Le soleil, mon père, j'ai des chansons que j'ai composées. Aujourd'hui, on est là. 27 mars. Le 27 mars. Le 27 mars. Le 27 mars. Fait que le 27 mars, bien sûr, je célèbre aujourd'hui jusqu'à la fin, jusqu'à demain, imagine. Je célèbre, je marque la victoire que j'ai eue de survécu la COVID. Moi, j'ai eu la COVID en 2020, entre le 7 février 2020 et le 7 février 2020, le 7 février 2020, et bien sûr, entre le 7 février 2020 et bien sûr le 7 février 2020, et bien sûr le 7 février 2020, et ainsi que entre le 7 février 2020 et la fin de mars, j'ai eu la COVID, je pensais que j'allais mourir. C'était comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. C'était comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. C'est comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. Fait que je pensais bien que j'allais mourir. Je pensais que j'allais mourir. Mais j'ai survécu. Il n'y a rien que je veux retourner en arrière. Je dis souvent, je suis mort de la COVID, puis je suis en train de renaître. Maintenant, aujourd'hui, puis ces dernières années, bien sûr, je suis en stress financièrement. Je vis un stress financier, donc je peux pas me changer le nom officiellement. Pas avoir de nom, mais que je dis souvent, votre dragon arc-en-ciel, monsieur, madame, homme-femme, tu sais. Monsieur, madame, homme-femme. Monsieur, madame, homme-femme, 50-50. Bien sûr, que je le fais dans cet entraînement physique que j'adore faire. Puis j'adore venir ici à ma deuxième maison à la montagne. Puis bien sûr, je vous encourage aussi de faire l'exercice physique. C'est quelque chose que je dois faire, bien sûr. Moi-même, j'en fais au quotidien. Fait que c'est constamment l'entraînement physique avec moi, le rock'n'roll, la géopolitique. Puis de retour, encore, je célèbre la victoire sur la COVID. Je pensais que j'allais mourir. Dans bien des circonstances, je suis mort de la COVID. Maintenant, je vis un stress financier. Mon seul stress en ce moment que je vis, c'est le stress financièrement parce qu'avec l'autisme mouvement fonctionnel, l'Asperger, c'est sûr que ça a été plutôt difficile. C'est sûr que ça a été plutôt difficile d'avoir un emploi, pas d'avoir nécessairement, de maintenir. Parce qu'il y a beaucoup de confusion avec l'Asperger, l'autisme mouvement fonctionnel, que je vis avec cette petite minorité là, de gens, des citoyens qui vivent avec l'Asperger, l'autisme mouvement fonctionnel. Donc, ça fait que je dois vivre avec cette condition de neurodivergence là, qui fait que j'ai ces intérêts spéciaux, puis qui fait que nous, les Aspergers, on peut sembler étrange, bizarre, difficile dans certaines circonstances parce que notre cerveau il est différent. Fait que nous, les choses sociales, mettons, tu sais, l'espace personnel, même un matin avec mon ami anonyme, tu sais, j'arrive et je me rapproche ce matin avant de dire de quoi, je me rapproche tellement proche, comme à 2-3 pouces, puis elle dit, t'es trop proche, prends distance, fait que ces choses-là, comme ça, il faut toujours qu'on travaille parce que notre cerveau est différent. Fait que nous, on comprend pas bien ces choses-là. Il faut qu'on les applique. Fait que c'est caractéristique parce que c'est pas des symptômes. L'Asperger's, c'est pas une maladie mentale. C'est ça, il y a le problème. C'est pas une maladie mentale. C'est juste notre cerveau, il est différent. Puis il y a des associations négatives comme qu'on est la violence. Moi, j'aime pas du tout la violence, mais je suis hyper vigilant parce que j'ai plein de cicatrices. Moi-même, je me suis fait attaquer, j'ai vécu la violence moi-même, sur moi-même, j'ai plein de cicatrices sur le visage, sur le corps, genre même sur mon clitopénis, là. Mais en bas, j'ai des cicatrices, je me gratte des fois, puis c'est comme une plaie, puis une cicatrice. Puis sur le visage, sur le corps, puis sur en dedans puis à l'extérieur, mais je suis jovial aujourd'hui, je suis de bonne humeur, je suis content, puis je sais bien qu'il va y avoir quelqu'un qui va faire l'amour, puis il y avait mon frère d'une autre mère, ou peut-être soeur d'une autre mère, parce que je sais pas, genre pas, ça androgène ou pas comme moi-même, 50-50, mais chanter du soleil, fait qu'on a quelque chose en commun, on peut chanter du soleil. Puis on va faire pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Puis tous ceux qui viennent nous rejoindre, parce que en tant que Québécois moi-même, personnellement, je ne me considère pas un membre d'une diaspora, mais moi-même, vivant avec l'Asperger, je fais partie d'une minorité. Hein? Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'Aspergers dans le monde. C'est 0,44%, c'est même pas 1%, là. C'est même pas la moitié d'un pourcentage. C'est même pas la moitié d'un %, c'est même pas 1%, même pas la moitié, c'est 0,44. Fait que les neurotypiques, vous êtes 99,56. C'est pas une maladie, c'est notre cerveau, il est différent. Fait que nous, on voit le monde d'une autre manière. Mais on a ses intérêts spéciaux, ses intérêts obsessifs. Fait que dans ces choses, on peut avoir, tu sais, on est super bon dedans, mais dans d'autres choses, on n'est pas si bon. On a de la misère avec la compréhension des choses plus dans le social. Fait que, comme je vous ai dit tantôt, j'ai mentionné, mais là, je vais pas descendre, je vais juste regarder un peu par en arrière. De quoi ça a l'air? Petit déneigement. Ah, je pense que c'est nouveau, ça, ici. Là, ça va dans le parking de... OK, ça va dans le... Ah oui, OK, je sais c'est où. OK, je vais pas y aller là-bas, c'est pour aller voir l'Est. Si vous voulez regarder là-bas, c'est pour regarder l'Est qui est là, mais je n'irai pas par là. Je vais faire le tour, mais je vais faire le tour ici. Mais hey, s'il vous plaît, laissez pas des choses comme ça ici, par exemple. Parce que on essaie de... Ça me dérange pas, tu sais, l'effet d'artifice, mais... Ça, parce qu'on a de la flore, puis de la faune, fait que faut vraiment que vous ne laissez pas ça là-dedans. Parce que si vous laissez ça, ça pollue, là. Ça pollue, ça. Red Alert, là, j'aime bien le rouge, c'est ma couleur préférée, là, tu sais. L'alerte rouge, là, je l'aime bien, l'alerte rouge, pas de problème. Rouge, c'est ma couleur préférée. Je suis en train de porter rouge, je pense que j'en porte quotidien. Le soleil se lève rouge et se couche rouge, mais ça, là, on a de la flore, on a des lapins. Puis ici, c'est une place pour qu'on essaie de préserver, fait que ça me fait chier un peu. Vous m'énervez un peu là-dessus, là, mais ça fait des années que je fais du bénévolat. Puis ça, c'est ma deuxième maison dans cette vie, puis dans une autre. Hein. Dans cette vie, puis dans un autre. Dans cette vie, puis dans un autre. Dans cette vie, puis dans un autre. Fait que c'est toujours ben, je fais du bénévolat pour faire le nettoyage. Là. Ça fait des années que j'en fais ici. Fait que je vous demande aussi de faire un effort puis mettez ça dans les... Je pense que ça, il n'y a pas de recyclage, là, mais ça va dans les vidanges, ça, je pense. voyez, je sais pas, les feux d'artifice, j'aime bien, mais ça se recycle-tu, ça? Mystical, j'aime pas le mystique, je suis mystique moi-même, je suis mystique, mais je sais pas si... Vous voyez, ça n'a pas de l'air que ça... C'est... je pense pas que c'est du recyclage, ça. Je sais pas, du carton, ça a l'air du carton, mais je suis en train de faire une analyse, mais... En tout cas... je peux en faire le change, j'imagine, si ça fait le signe dessus, là, mais... J'imagine que je peux faire le discernement, là, mais... Bien sûr. En tout cas, fait que l'Asperger, c'est ça, c'est pas une maladie mentale. C'est une condition de neurodivergence. Ça fait que j'ai ces intérêts obsessifs. Ben, j'aime même pas utiliser le mot obsessif parce qu'obsessif, c'est plus négatif, hein? Car les Asperger, il faut qu'ils soient encouragés, avoir du soutien, puis avoir une concordance dans cette manière de correspondance. Fait que cette manière d'avoir de la correspondance, c'est bien sûr de la correspondance principalement dans les intérêts spéciaux qu'on a nous-mêmes. Fait que ces intérêts spéciaux, ça se tourne autour. J'ai tendance à aller marcher vers le soleil. Ça se tourne, mais je vais aller par l'autre bord. Ça se tourne autour de nos intérêts spéciaux. Puis c'est nos intérêts spéciaux, tu sais. Fait que moi-même, la trinité des intérêts spéciaux qui sont mes préoccupations principalement du jour au quotidien depuis bien des années, là. Puis c'est une routine établie quand même. Je peux être flexible un peu, mais je dois le faire par jour des heures de l'analyse en géopolitique, l'entraînement physique, la danse et mon sport préféré, bien sûr. Puis c'est bien sûr l'entraînement physique avec le rock'n'roll. Le rock'n'roll, fait que c'est quelque chose que je dois quand même apprécier ma concitoyenne qui avait mis en laisse le chien, fait que, parce que moi j'ai certaines allergies. Vous voyez, ça c'est l'est de la ville, ça c'est l'est. Ça c'est l'est, puis ça c'est l'autre. Ça c'est Outremont, puis ça c'est l'est. Oh, le soleil, là, ça vient. Fait qu'il y a le soleil par là, mais là, il doit être, et là, ça fait 2 heures que je suis dans la marche. Fait que je suis parti à 5h15. Fait que là, 5h15, plus 2 et 11, il est peut-être 7h... 7-18. 7-18, 7-18, 7-18, 7-18, 7-18. Providence, Papa Crowley, Alistair Crowley, 93, là. Et bien sûr, la géopolitique, l'entraînement physique, puis le rock'n'roll. Puis je passe des heures au quotidien. J'en compose des chansons au rock'n'roll tous les jours. C'est juste notre vie se tourne quand même autour de ces intérêts spéciaux. Puis on peut être très intense, très concentré, puis on peut faire des études pendant des heures par jour. Puis moi, c'est les études, ben j'en ai fait là, les années passées, mais là, c'est juste l'analyse, puis la théorie, puis l'application des pronostics. Parce que la géopolitique, je suis moi-même un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant. Puis j'ai prévu la situation actuelle. Je l'ai prévu en 2019. En 2019, j'avais prévu qu'il y aurait une conflagration internationale en 2019, en octobre. Puis bien sûr, aujourd'hui, je marque ayant survécu la COVID. Je marque ayant survécu la COVID. 5 ans entre le 7 février 2020 et le 29 mars. Entre le 7 février 2020 et le 29 mars. Entre le 7 février 2020 et le 29 mars. Fait qu'ayant bien sûr survécu, j'ai survécu la COVID, puis ça fait longtemps, là. Fait, wow, ça fait déjà 5 ans, mais je dis souvent, je suis mort de la COVID. Il n'y a rien que je veux retourner en arrière, mais c'est des choses avec lesquelles je vis moi-même, tu sais. Ben, ayant survécu la COVID, tu sais, puis quelque chose, puis moi-même, tu sais, je suis mystique, fait que je crois à la réincarnation. J'ai rencontré Louisa dans une autre vie. Des fois, j'étais né homme-femme, puis j'étais né femme. Dans d'autres vies, ben, j'étais québécoise, mais dans le temps, ben, c'était pas vraiment le Québec d'aujourd'hui. Là. En 1744, quand j'ai aidé les coureurs de bois, c'était encore pas mal religieux. Là. C'était bien avant la Révolution tranquille, fait que c'était une autre ère du Québec, du Canada. Là, mais... Puis en plus, vous le savez, mais il y a des poèmes. Il y a de la poésie ici. Vous pouvez voir la poésie ça parle du soleil ici, là. Si on veut un peu, mais ça parle du soleil. You know there's poems here, eh? There's poems. Oh, you know? Yeah, I like to let people know who don't know. But you have to know French. Bye. You too. So, il faut que tu connaisses le français ici quand même. On m'a fait un beau sourire, la citoyenne. Fait que je l'ai averti bien sûr que. Ben, je donne des avis aux gens parce que vous voyez, ça parle. C'est l'unique étoile, ça dit l'unique étoile que nous envoie, que nous ayons en partage. Nous donne, te rend le monde visible et te rend le monde visible et te donne l'ombre ou renaître. Te donne l'ombre ou renaître. L'étoile, l'unique étoile qu'on partage. Fait que ça parle du pape le soleil, ça parle de mon pape le soleil, ça parle de mon pape le soleil, pas juste le mien, mais ceux qui le connaissent comme pape. Puis, pape, je veux dire le roi, mais le roi est absent, le roi Charles, mais ça m'a frustré un peu que Marc Carney, notre premier ministre, il a prêté allégeance au roi, là, au roi Charles. Tu sais, je pense que c'est le temps pour la République, le roi est absent, c'est le temps pour la République, tu sais. Puis ça m'a fait un peu, ça m'a fait, je sais pas, souvent, j'ai dit pourquoi c'est prêté allégeance aux Québécois et Canadiens, les 44 et plus millions, puis moi, ça me fait toujours penser, tu sais, quand j'ai traversé le Canada, en 2017, avant ça, j'étais en dépression suicidaire, puis en traversant le Canada en 2017, ça m'a fait établir un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, les Québécois et Québécoises, puis bien sûr, depuis ce temps-là, j'ai commencé à m'entraîner, mais cet événement, ça m'a fait bien sûr de l'entraînement physique pour en faire ici, fait que ça, je sais pas, je prends pas de chance pour le mettre dans le recyclage, mais je vais le mettre ici, parce que c'est pas indiqué, ça indique pas. Fait que je suis pas sûr. Oh, mais ça n'a pas de couverture, ça. Il n'y a pas de couverture. En tout cas, je vais le mettre dans l'autre. Où il y a de la couverture, là, mais parce que sinon, ça d'habitude, il y a un couvert là, qu'on couvre là-dessus, là, mais c'est pour l'enfant, tu sais, des choses de l'encombrage. C'est des gâteaux qu'ils appellent des gâteaux d'artifice à multiple. Peut-être parce que ça sent, puis s'il n'y a pas de recyclage à cause que qu'est-ce qu'il y a en dedans, la poudre, puis tout ça qu'il y a eu, là. C'est pour ça qu'il n'y a pas de signe de recyclage. Fait que on ne peut pas vraiment recycler ça, je pense, de la manière où il y a les trois flèches, là. Les trois flèches, qu'il y ait les trois flèches pour la face, pour l'en faire de la manière, bien sûr, qu'on aille dans l'encombrement. Mais parce que si on met dans le recyclage, ça va pas dans le recyclage, tu sais, on fait pas un bon travail. On fait pas le bon travail. Si ça va pas dans le recyclage, on fait pas dans le bon travail, dans le fond, là. Parce que si on le met dans le bac de recyclage, ça va pas au recyclage, tu sais, on fait pas le bon travail, fait qu'on encombre, parce que ça prend l'action individuelle, hein. Quelque chose dans mon œil, qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Mon œil, ça a fait quelque chose de mal. Ok, ça va mieux. Il y avait quelque chose qui est rentré dans mon œil, pas comme une petite, je sais pas quoi, mais c'était comme de la poussière peut-être. Mais bon, ben ça prend l'individu, hein. Ça prend l'individu, parce que c'est moi-même, en tant qu'individu, qui vit avec cette condition de neurodivergence, qui vit avec la amnésie rétrograde, la perte de mémoire, puis avec toutes mes cicatrices, puis je célèbre la victoire aujourd'hui. En 2020, entre le 7 février 2020 et le fin de mars, j'ai eu la COVID. C'était comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. C'était vraiment là, comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. Je pensais vraiment que j'allais mourir. Je pensais vraiment que c'est mes derniers jours. J'ai survécu. Puis depuis ce temps-là, bien sûr, je prends comme je vis au carpe diem, tous les jours au quotidien, mais j'ai l'espoir pour demain quand même. Tu sais, je veux dire, à long terme, mais c'était comme la mort, la pestilence, la maladie. Je sais quand je dis, je m'exprime demain, mais c'était comme la mort, la maladie, C'est comme la mort, la pestilence puis la maladie. Ce que je sais que ça fait penser comme un petit du genre rock'n'roll, heavy metal, trash metal. Là. Ça fait penser un peu de ce genre style de musique. T'sais. La mort, la pestilence, la maladie, ça fait la rock'n'roll. Là. Tu sais, du rock'n'roll plus hardcore, plus heavy metal trash. T'sais. Il y a des thèmes de mort, de pestilence, de maladie dans ce genre de rock'n'roll, de heavy metal, le trash metal, le heavy metal, comme le Black Sabbath, ou pas vraiment le style de rock voisine, là, mais c'est pas vraiment le style de rock voisine, mais c'est quand même quelque chose qui peut sembler à du rock'n'roll. C'est pas les cowboys fringants non plus, puis pas dommage non plus, là, mais il y en a d'autres rock'n'roll que... Bon, en tout cas, fait que j'ai survécu ça, puis je suis mort de la COVID, il n'y a rien que je veux retourner en arrière, c'est juste que j'aime ça, l'entraînement physique, la danse, la géopolitique, ben j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant, puis ça fait bien sûr pour en faire de cette manière, hein, qu'il y a le soleil, tu sais. Fait que, qu'est-ce que j'avais prévu en 2017, en 2019? C'est vraiment, j'avais prévu qu'il y aurait une conflagration internationale. Fait qu'en 2019, en octobre, en novembre, j'ai conclu qu'il y aurait une conflagration internationale, bien sûr. Puis j'avais conclu qu'il y avait cette guerre qui s'en venait, qui va suivre. Fait que dans ce temps, ben, c'était d'une manière générale, tu sais, que ça fasse, bien sûr, dans le fond, que ça fasse... dans l'entraînement physique que j'ai créé moi-même pour y aller, bien sûr, avec une situation de situation similaire, tu sais, pour que ça fasse dans ces enjeux d'avoir, bien sûr, cette nuance que ça regarde dans mon travail en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, ça fait partie de mon travail, puis indépendant, mais quand même, c'est du travail que j'ai fait pendant des années, puis j'ai bien des théories que je veux vous en parler, mais c'est principalement aujourd'hui le plus important que je vous en parle de la théorie de la refusion de la dette, à part que vous parlez de la théorie de la défense mobile totale, puis même que je peux pas en discuter tout de la théorie de la défense mobile totale quand c'est sensible à la sécurité nationale. Donc, je peux pas trop mettre sur YouTube là, en tant que ça soit public et libre, là, parce que c'est quelque chose que faut que ça soit des hauts placés de la sécurité nationale pour en discuter de ces choses-là, parce que je suis analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, puis la sécurité, la guerre, la sécurité nationale, l'étude de la guerre, c'est toutes des choses du concernement de la géopolitique et dans cet encombrement, bien sûr, que ça fasse ici pour qu'on tourne de la gauche et de la droite, puis je rentre dans la forêt, puis mes concitoyens, mes cousins, ma famille ici, parce que je vous considère ma famille, les Québécois, les Québécoises, les Canadiens, puis c'est sûr que des fois on est dysfonctionnel un peu, hein, la fonction, le dysfonctionnel un peu dans le temps qu'on vit aussi, là, c'est des temps difficiles, mais ayant survécu la COVID, hein, c'était quelque chose, tu sais. Ayant survécu la COVID, là, c'est quelque chose qui m'a frappé fort moi-même. Puis, je dis souvent, waouh, j'ai survécu la COVID. Wow, comment j'ai fait pour survivre ça? Je pensais que j'allais mourir, je pensais que c'était mon dernier chapitre, mais bon, j'ai survécu, il n'y a rien que je veux retourner en arrière. Puis j'aime ça voir le monde se tenir par la main, se donner des câlins, puis faisant des bons gestes, ça donne l'espoir, puis avoir de la bonté, puis essayer d'avoir de la justice un peu, la justice, là, c'est quelque chose qui peut me mettre dans dans cet enjeu, là, mais c'est des choses que je pourrais le faire, tu sais. Dans ces choses-là. Bon, maintenant, c'est important que je discute de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Théorie de la refusion de la dette, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Ça aussi, hein, ça va dans le recyclage, par exemple. Fait que ça, on peut le mettre dans le recyclage. Ça, c'est mieux que ça soit là sur le poteau que ça va prendre compte parce que bon. Et ça, on peut le recycler. Fait que ça, on peut le recycler par exemple. Bon, ben, ça ne me dérange pas que vous buvez dans la montagne, sur la montagne. Ça ne dérange pas que vous buvez sur la montagne, mais ben ça me dérange que vous laissez dans la nature là, pour... Ouais, ben, c'est quand même, on a de la civilisation, hein? Civilisation, des antennes, mais l'antenne des antennes, le soleil, le pape, la TRD, méchante théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est la seule et unique solution. Pour de quoi je parle? Je parle que c'est la seule solution et unique, et bien sûr, solution pour l'enfer de l'encombrement, pour bien sûr la solution d'avoir ce fait de qu'on paye 46,5 milliards, 46,5 milliards d'intérêts sur la dette publique, C'est 46,5 milliards l'année passée qu'on a payé d'intérêts sur la dette publique. C'est 46,5 milliards d'intérêts sur la dette publique. Vous imaginez-vous, là? Ça a tellement fait du bien, 46,5 milliards. 46, là, ça fait pas de bien pantoute, ça. Ça fait pas du bien pantoute. Moi, ça me fait du bien de venir ici à ma deuxième maison, mais quand je pense à ça, je déprime un peu. Hein. Fait 46,5 milliards qu'on a payé d'intérêt sur la dette publique seulement. D'intérêt sur la dette publique, là. 46,5 milliards, 1 milliard, c'est en 9 zéros. Fait qu'imaginez-vous, en 2020-2021, le montant était de 20,3. 20,3. Fait que ça a plus que doublé. Mais c'est sûr qu'à cause de la COVID, mais ce montant d'intérêt, c'est un montant énorme. 20,3 fois 2, ça aurait été 40,6. Fait que c'est rendu 46,5 milliards. 1 milliard, c'est en 9 zéros. 1 milliard, c'est en 9 zéros. Fait que 46,5 milliards, c'est 46. C'est un chiffre énorme. Fait que, pour faire le calcul, c'est 46,5 milliards. C'est 46 000 là, millions. C'est un chiffre énorme, ça. C'est juste l'intérêt sur la dette publique. Sur la dette publique privée, bien sûr. Fait que c'est un chiffre énorme. Fait 46,5 milliards, là. C'est 46 000 millions, là. Imaginez-vous, là. C'est que l'intérêt, ça a plus que doublé. Fait qu'il n'y a pas, bien sûr, de solution à ça. Il n'y a pas de solution à ça. Puis en plus que l'économie canadienne n'a pas doublé, là. C'est ça le problème. L'économie canadienne n'a pas doublé. Si l'économie aurait doublé aussi, ça aurait été permis pour qu'on puisse permettre de payer ce genre d'intérêt. Bien, parce que le principe mathématique, c'est exactement un individu. Si l'intérêt double que vous payez, moi, j'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même, j'ai une ligne de crédit, je paye 10%, 10,44%. 10,44%, 10,44%, 10,44%, 10,44%, là, 10,44%, c'est d'intérêt sur la dette publique qui a doublé juste l'intérêt. Fait qu'imaginez-vous que moi, ça aurait doublé mon intérêt, là. Maintenant que je vis une crise financière, mon seul stress c'est financier en ce moment. Mon seul stress est financier en ce moment. Mon seul stress est financier en ce moment. Mais, bien sûr, dans cet ensemble des enjeux, comme un citoyenne, X, Y, Z, comme vous avez votre dragon arc-en-ciel qui vous parle, messieurs, madame, mais mettons que moi-même ou vous, quelqu'un d'autre, mettons que en 2020-2021, l'intérêt qu'on a payé sur la carte de crédit, c'était 156 $. De 156, ça saute. Double, 156 double, c'est 312. Mais l'intérêt sur la dette publique a plus que doublé parce que ça a sauté de 20,3 milliards à 46,5 milliards. Okay? Puis 1 milliard, c'est 9 zéros, 1 milliard, c'est 1000 millions. Fait que si un citoyen, si la dette, l'intérêt seulement sur la dette d'un citoyen et citoyenne, c'est plus que double, mettons de 156 à 333, sans que le salaire double, il faut que ça coupe dans le budget. Il va falloir que ça coupe quelque chose, hein, parce qu'il n'y a pas de solution. Il faut que ça coupe quelque chose dans le budget. Il faut que ça coupe quoi? Il va falloir qu'il arrête de fumer des cigarettes, du cannabis, c'est légal. Fait, de la boisson, d'arrêter de sortir, d'arrêter de dépenses, des dépenses. Il faut qu'il réduise dans les dépenses. L'individu, le citoyen. Que ça soit moi, toi, quelqu'un d'autre, parce qu'on ne peut pas soutenir là, la moyenne de salaire. Augmentation salariale en 5 ans, ça a été de 4,4 de 4,4 de 4,4 tu sais. Fait qu'en étant ce salaire, c'est plus que le salaire stagnant en comparant l'intérêt. C'est juste le principe mathématique qu'on ne peut pas soutenir. Fait que le citoyen, c'est peut-être faire faillite aussi. C'est possible qu'il fasse, lui, fasse faillite, là. Parce que on ne peut pas soutenir ce genre de dépenses. Fait que c'est le même principe avec les finances publiques. Qu'est-ce qu'on va couper dans le public? La police, la GRC, la police, les prisons, mais les services, bien sûr, de recyclage, hein? De sanitation, les services publics qui changent les aqueducs, tout ça, c'est tous des services publics. Aujourd'hui, chez nous, après le midi, après 5 heures, c'est le compostage. Puis moi-même, j'ai travaillé sur le compostage. Hein? J'ai travaillé sur le compostage. Et donc, bien sûr, j'ai travaillé sur le compostage. J'ai travaillé sur ces choses-là. Et bien sûr, j'ai travaillé sur ces choses-là. Bon, mais c'est sûr qu'il va falloir que je le fasse moi-même, tu sais, pour en faire dans... il va falloir que vous coupez dans le budget, tu sais. Il va falloir que vous coupez dans le budget. Fait que ça soit d'une autre manière ou d'autre, il n'y a pas de solution que la TRD, ma théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est un paradoxe. Ben, quelque chose qui ressemble à ma théorie, tu sais. Quelque chose qui ressemble à ma théorie. Tu sais. Parce que sinon, tu sais... Sinon, c'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques. Là. C'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques. C'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques. Vous vous rendez compte que c'est tellement un point de crise. C'est possible que je me rende chez nous l'après-midi, parce que là, on est bon le matin, avant même pas 8 heures le matin. Mais c'est possible que dès que je me rende chez nous, je vois qu'il y a ce problème de finances. Là. C'est une catastrophe, là, parce que l'économie canadienne n'a pas doublé, tu sais. C'est ça le problème. L'économie du Canada n'a pas doublé, tu sais. L'intérêt qu'on paye, ça a doublé. C'est sûr que oui, à cause de la COVID. En principe. C'est pas 100% juste à cause de la COVID, mais en grosse partie, c'est la COVID qui est en cause. Que l'intérêt a doublé en 3 ans, de 20,3 milliards à 46,5 milliards. Fait que c'est juste un chiffre tellement énorme qu'il va falloir qu'on coupe. Même qu'il y a eu des coupes dans l'immigration Canada, l'organisation de l'immigration Canada. Immigration Canada. Tu sais, fait qu'il va falloir qu'on coupe quelque part. Fait que ma TRD, je vous l'explique, puis si c'est pas la TRD de votre dragon arc-en-ciel, philosophe, artiste, athlète, analyste théoricien en géopolitique, si c'est pas la TRD, c'est quelque chose qui doit ressembler à la théorie de la refusion de la dette. Parce que, car est dû au fait que l'intérêt qu'on paye sur la dette publique, c'est plus que double. Fait que je vous l'explique. La TRD, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire, ce qui est la théorie financière que les Européens ont faite, l'implémentation en Europe. Les autres, ils ont fait l'implémentation de la théorie d'intégration monétaire, ce qui est la théorie qu'ils ont faite, puis ils ont détruit leur banque centrale nationale. Hein. Ils n'ont plus de banque centrale nationale en Europe. Ils n'ont plus une banque centrale commune. Fait que dans ma TRD, c'est inclus la théorie de la refusion de la dette, est inclus la théorie d'intégration monétaire, la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Bien sûr, la théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la théorie qui est intégrée dans ma théorie de la refusion de la dette. Puis c'est bien sûr pour en faire principalement, pour en faire dans l'encombrement des enjeux, qu'on soit possible pour en faire le plus tôt possible, parce que c'est urgent, tu sais, ça presse. Il n'y a pas de solution là-dessus. Tu sais. Fait que je vous l'explique le plus simplement possible, parce qu'encore une fois, dû à l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, l'Asperger's, ça fait que nous, les aspis, des fois, on a des tendances, des caractéristiques pour qu'on fasse l'implémentation. On a ces caractéristiques pour faire de l'implémentation. Ces caractéristiques qu'on a bien sûr pour en faire ces caractéristiques c'est pas des symptômes. Les symptômes c'est une maladie. Les symptômes c'est pour une maladie. Asperger's, autisme monofonctionnel, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. C'est pas une maladie. S'il vous plaît, j'ai assez de stigme, j'ai assez perdu d'emploi, j'ai assez souffert, ça, c'est pas une maladie mentale. On peut être intense, on peut être différent, juste nous le dire. Des fois on est direct, on veut pas offenser, mais c'est juste des fois la manière qu'on est, on peut être un peu plus direct dans certaines choses, plus offensif, puis on n'est pas si bon dans les interactions sociales, mais on a d'autres forces, comme à cause de l'Asperger's, l'autisme monofonctionnel, je peux dire que je vous bénis le bon peuple sur la table, la théorie de la refusion de la dette. Théorie de la refusion de la dette. La théorie de la refusion de la dette qui intègre la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Qui intègre la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Qui intègre la théorie d'intégration. La théorie d'intégration monétaire. Bon, on va prendre, je vous l'explique maintenant, on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000 incluant de côte à côte, toute la dette publique-privée, toute la dette publique-privée, toute la dette publique-privée. On va prendre de côte à côte toute la dette publique-privée. On va prendre cette dette-là de côte à côte. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée de côte à côte. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée de côte à côte. De côte à côte. On va prendre toute la dette publique de côte à côte. Mon 10 000, ton 10 000, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, ton 10 000, mon 10 000, votre 10 000, ton 10 000. De côte à côte. Toute la dette publique-privée. Toute la dette publique-privée, on va prendre de côte à côte. Fait que toute cette dette-là, publique-privée, on va ramasser ensemble, on va mettre dans un paquet, on va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée, qui inclut mon 10 000, la conversion de cette dette-là dans la devise des États-Unis. Dans la devise des États-Unis, dans la devise des États-Unis. On va ramasser, puis il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation en même temps avec les États-Unis, Canada principalement, mais simultanément avec les États-Unis, parce qu'on vit dans une même situation quand même, financièrement, là. Les États-Unis et le Canada, on est dans de public ainsi que privé, en même temps. 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 Public-privé ainsi que public-privé. Et donc, toute cette dette publique-privée, on va la mettre ensemble. On va la mettre ensemble. Toute cette dette publique-privée. On va ramasser ensemble. On va faire l'addition. Tout cet argent-là, ça va être bien sûr tout l'argent. Cet argent-là, ça va être tout l'argent pour cette dette publique. Tout cet argent-là, ça va être l'argent en circulation pour la création d'une nouvelle banque, parce que comme je vous ai mentionné, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, toute la dette publique-privée, tout cet argent-là, converti dans la devise des États-Unis, on va faire l'addition avec la dette publique privée des États-Unis. Cet argent-là, ça va fonder une nouvelle banque, comment on l'appelle, ça ne dérange pas le nom en principe, mais on va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie, appelée l'UI, U.unité, un point échange, un point universel. U.unité, un point échange, un point universel. U, point unité, un point échange, un point universel. Qui va avoir, on va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10% maximum. On va pas pouvoir avoir plus que 10. Plus que 10. Fait que ça va être 10% maximum. 10% maximum. 10% maximum. Ça peut être 3.33, 1.56, 6.1, 9.3, 4.18, 7.18. En bas de 10 par principe. Cet argent-là, Ça va être 10 par principe maximum après ça, sur l'intérêt qu'on va mettre en circulation, les prêts et bourses, après ça, les cartes de crédit. Ça va être par principe, ça va être un nouveau principe financier, un standard, une loi, comme une loi, un standard de loi, la législature pour les finances. 10% maximum. Avec cet argent-là, on va bâtir plus de centrales d'Hydro-Québec, financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, financer le tourisme pour les soins, pour la santé mentale, le bien-être, bien sûr rebâtir l'infrastructure, les aqueducs, l'infrastructure du Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. On va financer la construction de 44. Le chiffre après 43 avant 45, c'est 44 tunnels inspirés par le village souterrain de Montréal puis par les montagnes Cheyennes. Dans le cas pour la défense et la continuité du Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. 44 tunnels à travers l'Amérique du Nord. Dans l'Amérique du Nord. Puis la TRD, ben, ça peut s'étendre. On peut faire la TRD, ben, on peut faire à travers d'autres pays de l'Amérique du Nord. Ça peut s'étendre au pays de l'OTAN, mais que ça soit pour l'Amérique du Nord. Parce que fondamentalement, je suis un philosophe, et analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, québécois, canadien, nord-américain, mais personnellement, c'est chez nous. Je ne me considère pas en tant qu'un membre d'une diaspora. C'est chez nous, le Québec. Vous êtes ma famille, mais des fois, on est dysfonctionnel avec le Canada aussi, mais surtout ces temps-ci. Mais c'est mieux qu'on se fusionne par ce partenariat public-privé qui est fondamentalement mon appel. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé. Et ça prend, bien sûr, un partenariat public-privé pour l'établissement de ces deux nouvelles institutions de partenariat public-privé. L'armée de la déesse qui danse, l'armée la Ligue de danse de l'Amérique du Nord intégrée pour la danse, pour la plantation des arbres, pour faire du travail environnemental, puis pour le plaisir, puis l'armée du dragon, pour la création des nouvelles légions, seulement pour la défense, la sécurité, pour les services, la création des nouvelles légions, pour la défense, la sécurité, puis le service, l'armée du dragon. Dragon. Pour la sécurité, pour le service, puis basé sur mes philosophies, puis faire l'implémentation de l'opération Scorpion du Nord, pour bien sûr faire le Scorpion du Nord, il va falloir bien sûr faire l'implémentation de ma théorie mobile de défense totale. Puis ça prend encore un partenariat public-privé. Fondamentalement, quand je dis intelligence des gens, c'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé. Donc, c'est ça fondamentalement. Hey, yeah, that's it with that. Let's go. Gotta get it on the go. Gotta get it as you know. And to go. Rock and roll. I'm bilingual as I know how to sing it. Some of that rock and roll, you know, here we are. Where I want to be buried, a third of me here. Un tiers de moi ici en arrière. A third of me with Papa Crowley up in New Jersey. A third of me up in the pyramids. Pyramid.